In Chapter 11, we study the oligopoly and monopolistic competition. In an oligopoly market, there are only a few firms, and there are barriers to entry. And then if these firms coordinate or say collude in their actions, then it's called a cartel. In this chapter, we start to look at the behaviors of the firms in oligopoly in a cartel. And in this particular example, we actually do not need to assume an oligopoly market structure. What we have in mind is that this is a perfectly competitive market to start with. However, just like an oligopoly market, we do assume there's limit to entry. So there's no new firms can enter into the market. In other words, there are a limited number of firms in this market. Then the market supply curve will be the horizontal sum of these individual firms' marginal cost curve, as we have seen in Chapter 8, Figure 8.4. And this horizontal section is the quantity produced by individual firms from 0 to the minimum of the average cost curve in the long run. So that's the starting point of the individual firm's quantity, and if there are n firms in the market, this portion will be provided by these n firms in the market. Again, because the limited number of firms in this perfectly competitive market, we have this upward sloping supply curve resulting from the individual upward sloping marginal cost curves. And because it's perfect competition, we have the market price formed by the market supply curve and market demand curve. This PC here give us this market equilibrium EC. And for the individual firms in the market, they produce at little QC, the individual output quantity, and we have the market output capital QC equal to n times little qc. Notice that this little qc is determined by the market price PC and the individual marginal cost curve. When they meet each other, that's the optimal quantity for an individual firm to produce for this market. We also observe that at this competitive price level, PC, this price is higher than the average cost for an individual firm at the output level QC. The average cost is at this point, which is lower than PC. It means the individual firms are making economic profit in the long run. That is because the limited entry. Recall that when we talk about economic profit, it is a very good profit in the sense that it is actually must be less or equal to the accounting profit. So if you have a positive economic profit, it means your accounting profit has to be positive, because economic profit deduct all the explicit and implicit cost. That means the opportunity costs. But accounting profit only deduct the explicit costs. It doesn't take the opportunity costs into account. So here, when these firms have price higher than average cost at the competitive equilibrium EC, they are making economic profit, which is a very good profit. However, if we focus on this market and think about whether in this market the profit is maximized, the answer is no, because this price level gives us PC, the competitive equilibrium price, is actually higher than the marginal revenue for the whole market. This purple line is the marginal revenue for the whole market, and the total output in the market is capital QC. Here is the marginal revenue at capital QC, which is much lower than the price. So in this competitive equilibrium, if the total output can be reduced, marginal revenue will increase, which can increase the profit in this market, because once the quantity decline, the total marginal cost will decline in this market along the supply curve, and the marginal revenue will rise along this marginal revenue curve, and when they meet, the profit is maximized. That actually means if the firms in this competitive market collude, they acting like one monopoly, and then reduce their total output from QC to capital QM, which also means the individual output for every single firm will reduce from little QC to little QM because they share the market output equally. Little QC is capital QC divided by N, and little qm is capital QM divided by N. So when capital QM is less than capital QC, little qm is less than little QC. So when every firm collude in this market to form a cartel, they will be able to reduce the total market output and increase the market price from PC to PM. That's a monopoly price. And now in this panel B, in the whole market, we have the marginal cost, MCM, equal to the marginal revenue on this purple curve at this quantity capital QM. So the profit in this market now is maximized. For this total market, the profit is now higher than when it is in perfect competition. The reason is that because we have reduced the marginal cost and increased the marginal revenue by reducing the total quantity the firms supply to the market, and that means the profit is now maximized. We have a higher total profit, so each firm also have a higher profit. But once the cartel is formed and it become effective, increased the market price to PM, there is a strong incentive for individual firms to cheat, because if you look at panel A, the market price is PM. If a firm in this market believes itself is a price taker, that is, if this firm increase the output quantity a little bit and won't influence the market price, then this firm is actually looking at a marginal revenue at a level of PM, but its own marginal cost is actually at MCM, which is much lower than its marginal revenue. So for an individual firm in a cartel, and if it believes itself is a price taker, it has strong incentive to increase the output quantity from little qm to little q star, where its marginal cost will rise to meet the marginal revenue for this firm, that is PM. So for an individual firm in the cartel, it has strong incentive to cheat, and if more firms cheat, and perhaps they will be forced to leave the cartel because they are cheating, and eventually the cartel will collapse because less and less members are within the cartel trying to restrict their output, and the firms in the market just produce at the output that maximize their profit. So this example tells us for firms in the market, there can be an incentive to collude to form a cartel and increase their profit. However, once a cartel is formed and become effective, increase the market price and reduce the market output, there is incentive for individual firms to cheat the firms obey to the agreement of the cartel, and then eventually the cartel may collapse.